So, hi everyone. My name is Sophie McLernon, and I am the brand manager for Astrolabe Wines. I was previously based in Singapore for 6 years, and I moved back to New Zealand 18 months ago. So, whilst I was living in Singapore, I visited Bali a lot and came to Indonesia. Indonesia is actually one of our most important markets, and it was one of my most favorite markets to visit. So I understand how important tourism is to you guys, and obviously we are all in this together, and I hope very soon that we all get back to being able to visit your beautiful country and to see all of you face to face and actually spend time with you. But in the meantime, this is really exciting for us to actually be able to attend and participate in something like this with you. We're really excited to share this new brand, which is called Scorpius, with you, and I'm very thankful to Hassan and obviously to Buddy from Prima, and for all of you for joining us tonight. So first of all, thank you, and it's really, really wonderful to be here. I'm just going to share my screen now. I guess the best way to do that is if anyone's got any questions, and we can answer them, put them in the chat, and we'll answer them in the end. Is that the right way?
Yeah. So basically for those, Sophie will be presenting the presentation. For those who have a question, you can just drop into the chat, and we will go through later on after Sophie finishes the presentation, and then we go through the question. All right?
Okay, good to go. It's great. It's great to see so many wonderful faces on here, by the way. So I feel like I'm back at home. Okay, so let me just share my screen.
All right.
It's going. Okay, so there we go. So Scorpius is a brand new brand to Indonesia that we're really, really excited to share with you guys. So I don't know if you know, but Scorpius is actually a star constellation. So it's one of the brightest constellations and one of the most distinctive shapes, which is actually shaped like a scorpion. And when I was looking it up earlier today, I actually saw that the Javanese have a name for this. They call it the Banya Kengram, which means brooded swan. So that's that shape. So it lies very, very high in the Milky Way. So for those of us that are in the Southern Hemisphere, it's very high and it's very bright and distinctive. So I'll just go through here and you can see. Now let me just see how I can share. How am I going to be able to? There we go. Yeah. So here you can see this is the Scorpius up here on the right, and this photo was actually taken just out of Blenheim in a place called Lake Rotawiti. So I've actually jumped off that jetty and swum in that water before. So as you can see, that's the night sky, and it's very distinct and beautiful. And we people used to use the Scorpius constellation as a guide that early explorers, when they came to New Zealand, to chart their paths on some of these new southern lands. So we chose the name because obviously it was indicative of the clear skies of Marlborough and the bright night times that we have. As you can see there, it's super, super dark, and that's one of the most amazing things about being home and being in places like Marlborough, is you forget when you're out of these cities just how dark the night sky is and how bright these stars can be. And so we like this idea that's also translated into this intensity of flavor in the wines and the brightness of the light in the wines as well. So this is New Zealand here. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but this is New Zealand to the east of Australia. So we are right far away, tucked away in a corner of the South Pacific. New Zealand wines are now all sustainable. So I think that's one of the most beautiful things coming out of New Zealand, is that all of our wines are 100% sustainable now, which is really exciting. So New Zealand, as you can see, is very long. It's about 1,600 kilometers long, and we call it Aotearoa is the indigenous word, or of our indigenous word of our Māori language, which means land of the long white cloud. And what makes New Zealand so wonderful is that we've got no nuclear power stations, and we've got a population. So just to give you guys maybe a little bit of a reference, New Zealand is about the same length and shape as Japan, except we have 5 million people and 30 million sheep, and Japan has 125 million people in it. So we're obviously very, very sparse here, and there's not a lot of people, you know, when you're sometimes in the South Island, you could go a wee while without seeing people. So the other thing about New Zealand, I suppose, is that the wine industry is very young. Some of our first vines were only planted in the 1970s. So we're a very young wine industry, which makes it quite exciting and a lot more innovative because we're not bound by tradition. So coming into Marlborough here, here's a couple of pictures of what it's like in Marlborough. Obviously a little bit different to Bali and Jakarta and Yogyakarta and everywhere like that. But I guess what makes Marlborough an amazing place to grow grapes is that we've got this long spine of the Southern Alps that goes right through the North and South Island. And what it means is that we get these cool southerly winds and rain that comes over from Australia, and it gets dumped on the in the Southern Alps, which means that by the time the winds come through and into Marlborough, they've got rid of all that moisture, and it's just these dry winds that come through. The other thing that's really wonderful about it is that we get this really bright light. So we have about 2,200 hours of sunshine, just annually here in Marlborough. So we've got the Southern Alps and the Richmond Ranges that just create this beautiful sort of bright light with these cool winds, which means it's absolutely no or very small disease pressure here in Marlborough. This is zooming in just that little bit more on that Marlborough area. So as you can see, you've got the Huayra Valley, the Awatere Valley, and the Kertawidyawati coast. So these are the three major sub-regions within Marlborough now. And actually, interestingly, there's more grapes planted in this Awatere Valley here than there is in Hawke's Bay alone. So Marlborough is now a really big and important grape growing region. So for the wine that goes into Scorpius, we only take fruit from the Huayra Valley and the Awatere Valley. So the Kertawidyawati coast is this small little region about an hour south of Blenheim. There are 2 people that grow for us down there, and it's an amazing little area to grow grapes because you've got limestone in the soil, you've got a very long growing season, but that doesn't go into this blend, it goes into some other wines as well. So looking at the Huayra Valley here, just quickly, Huayra Valley is the furthest north, as we saw on that previous map. It's the most protected, so you've got the Richmond Ranges on one side and the Weather Hills on the other, which again means that it's very protected. It's the warmest. And from here, you tend to get a lot more of those tropical characteristics coming through on the wines. Keeps those wet winds away. It's also one of the largest valleys that we've got. The other thing I suppose that's also interesting to mention is because New Zealand is so young, our soils are also super young as well. So they're less than 10,000 years old. So it's old silt, sand, gravel, that have been deposited as these riverbeds flooded back in the day. They all got deposited down here. So we've got these variations of the soil profiles across the valleys. Let's go into. So the second important grape growing region within Marlborough is the Awatere Valley. So as you can see back here, the Awatere Valley, you've got the Huayra Valley, which is very small and protected. As I said, it was protected by the Richmond Ranges and the Weather Hills. Then you've got the Awatere Valley, which is extremely wide. It's also got the biggest variation in soil profile there, and also the biggest variation in altitude. So what you get is you get a bit of a wind tunnel gets created up here near the A, and as it comes down, it funnels out into this Awatere Valley. So it gets super windy as you're going through here. And as a result of that wind, what you find is you get thicker berries with thicker skins, sorry, and smaller berries. So you get a lot more intensity in that fruit as well, which is really quite interesting, especially for us when we're blending these wines. So you've got those tropical notes that come through from the Huayra Valley, and then you've got those more herbaceous and herbal notes that are coming through from the Awatiri Valley. So I thought that we'd do a little bit of a virtual tasting here as well, just in terms of talking to you. I suppose the style of the wine that we're trying to create here is we're trying to create a very approachable style of wine. We want it to be very typical of the Marlborough region. So we do 3 varieties within the Scorpius range. We have the Pinot Gris, the Sauvignon Blanc, and the Pinot Noir. And we really want to create these beautiful wines that are evocative of what makes Marlborough such a special place to grow grapes. So that bright light, we want that to come out, and we want that to see that in the glass. When we make our wines, we make all of our picking decisions based on flavor profile, based rather than actually on what the bricks are or anything like that. So we'll have our viticulturalist and our winemaker will be walking up and down the roads, picking the grapes and trying the grapes. And it's when they recognize a specific character that they know will translate into the glass is when they pick. So they know that from when they recognize that character in the berry, they've got about a 3-day bell curve that they can then pick that fruit, and will still have that same flavor in the glass. Now, 2020 was a really interesting vintage for us, as I'm sure you can imagine. New Zealand found out 2 days before we started vintage that we were going to be going into lockdown. So there was a period of, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Will we even be able to actually to make wine this year? But what we did was we there was a lot of lobbying that went on, and the government eventually enabled us to make grapes, or make wine, pick the grapes, which was really exciting. So it will definitely be a vintage that everyone will remember. But Simon, true to form, really stuck out when he wanted to, or stuck to his guns about when he wanted to pick the fruit. And he didn't try and get it in early in case COVID came and all of a sudden we had to shut down the winery, or anything like that. He picked still when he wanted to pick, when he recognized the flavor profiles that he wanted. So for us, 2020 will not only be memorable because of obviously COVID-19, but it'll also be very memorable because it was a great vintage for us as well. So we've just released our first 2020 rosé in another one of our brands under De Villiers, which will be coming to Bali probably later in the year. And that's the first 2020 cab off the rank for us, which is really exciting. But what we're trying to do when we in making our wines is we want to create balanced wines, elegant wines that are very typical of the variety and are typical of the region as well. And that's really what we're looking for there. So first of all, I'm going to start here with the Pinot Gris. So the Pinot Gris, obviously, as you know, that hails from France, from Alsace. Simon thinks that New Zealand makes the best aromatic white wines, and Pinot Noir are the best wines that he thinks that you can make from Marlborough. So we take Pinot Gris from the 2 valleys that I spoke about. Our Pinot Gris is actually hand harvested. So we hand harvest it, we truck it into the winery. We want to get it off the skins as quickly as possible. So what you'll notice is with all of our wines, we've got that really light color, and you'll see that across all of the wines. We're starting, and you guys are going to have the 2018 Pinot Gris. So you can see that here. That's the label. Obviously, as you can see, it's got the constellation and as I said about the Scorpius being such a distinctive constellation, you can see that there. So, as I said, we're not looking for any of those ripe peach colors in our Pinot Gris, we're looking for much more of those lighter citrus peel, melon, crisp, dry. So all of our wines are dry. This wine's got about, I think it was about 3 grams of sugar in it. So who's doing the virtual tasting? Just a couple. You're on mute as well. Yeah, no problem. So how do you find that?
Maybe for those who are doing the virtual, you can unmute yourself. I'm picking the one, right? Cory, would you like to express the Pinot Gris then?
Yeah.
Okay. I will try to express the Pinot Gris. Of course, when you expect Pinot Gris, especially from New Zealand, I found a little bit, I don't know, bubbles there, sparkles. Maybe it is fermented in quite low fermentation, but I saw a little bit bubbles there. And then it's dry when you finish the wine, you feel it is really dry, and then it's quite balanced in terms of acidity and also alcohols, the body, and then it's good. It's quite good if you can drink by its own, the wine itself, or with the spicy food. It will be great. That's from my opinion.
Absolutely. So we actually think that Pinot Gris is one of the best and most versatile wines, actually, and it's really, really great as an aperitif or great with food as well. So when I actually really, and maybe it's, I get that really beautiful sort of citrus zest, you know, when you smell it, you can kind of get that you know, almost like that sweet, I get that on the nose. It's like this really beautiful, delicate citrus candy peel.
Yeah.
It's still really juicy and still quite full-bodied. You're getting that sort of poached pear kind of flavor, a bit of green melon. I don't think you guys would recognize what a green beige plum is, but still it's got this beautiful balance and dry finish to it. How do you find that?
Yeah, very nice, very refreshing, very aromatic. And I love the end, like you feel the silkiness of the wine in your palate. It stay there, so it's giving like more body and taste in the wine itself.
Yeah. So that's the Pinot Gris. Then we'll move forward to our Sauvignon Blanc. So our Sauvignon Blanc is also machine harvested. So most people, you know, the thing about Sauvignon Blanc is it's such an important, it's about 75% of what we produce, and it is one of the larger plantings that we have. This is the white label that you can, am I getting that right? The white label here. So again, it's all machine harvested. We want to get it into the winery straight away, get it off those grapes. We want it all to be about, we don't want any of the developed characteristics coming through. We want it all to be about that bright light and the wine speaking for itself. So let me move to the next one here. So here's a few probably more common fruits that you might recognize: lemongrass, guava. We really get that peach, that pink grapefruit on there. It's definitely on the more tropical side than the herbaceous side of some of the Sauvignon Blancs that you might see. And that's because a lot of it comes from the majority of it would be coming from the Huayra Valley, which has got those more tropical characteristics that we spoke about before. But it's still sort of does jump out of the glass at you, but it's very fragrant, very delicate, I would say still. And a lot of those flavors are on the more delicate rather than the big pungent Sauvignon Blancs that you might recognize as well. I know sometimes you've got those more developed characteristics of some of the Sauvignon Blancs that you see in Bali, but this is very light, very fresh, very crisp. Again, it's very dry. But on the palate, it's got that really beautiful citrus zippiness to it that you expect from the Sauvignon Blanc. You know, it's sort of that. Again, it's really good by itself, or particularly in the hot climate over there, but also really good with food as well. So we like to pair this with, you know, any lots of herbs, salads, seafoods. Salmon's really good with it. Any fish, oysters would also be really beautiful with that. Anything which has got those sort of flavors that you recognize in here will also be really great to pair with it as well. How do you guys find that one, the ones that are tasting it? What do you think?
Alit, if you want to express, I will ask Ali to express the wine. That's the consequences of tasting.
Yeah.
You have to talk on behalf of others.
Well,
How do you?
for me, this is a very good Sauvignon Blanc. You can get the crispiness, and also is very much is just I'm imagining myself in the sunbathing, and then beside the pool is this kind of wine is very perfect.
Yeah.
Comparing with the other previous Pinot Grigio, this Sauvignon Blanc is more have the acidity, and then also more fruit character in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's Pinot Gris is more like a more the finish is I prefer the Pinot Gris. But overall for me, this is if you're looking for any for the Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, everything is on your glass. You get the acidity, crisp, freshness, and also considering this is young wine, I believe this is can do for the age. Maybe you can drink it another 2 years, 3 years. But again, this is perfect wine that you can drink now for me.
Yeah, exactly. So this one is the 2019 vintage, this one. And I think it's, you know, obviously, as you can see, it's looking just, I mean, the 2018 Pinot Gris is just as fresh. That's the other thing about Simon's wines is they will last really, really well. And they often still, because all of his wines have a great acidic backbone to them, it means that they last really well. They last really well. They last a long time. That Pinot Gris is also, it's probably, as I said, about 3-4 grams of sugar, but it's got that beautiful natural sweetness that makes it really easy as well. So I think that's why that one's often a crowd pleaser, is because it doesn't have that zesty acidity to it that the Sauvignon Blanc, which people know and love, but it doesn't. If you are getting people that it's a little too much for them, then the Pinot Gris is a really great choice for that.
Yeah.
So the last one that we're going to move on to is the Pinot Noir. So some of our Pinot Noir is machine harvested, and some of our Pinot Noir is hand harvested. Again, coming from both valleys. Now we only make Pinot Noir from our winery, and the reason for that is because it is the only grape that Simon believes can get to the optimal ripeness in Marlborough. We're really moving to making wines of that more Burgundian style, of the bright fruit, the elegance, the balance. One of our other wines that we used to make was sort of that darker fruit characteristic, and we're really trying to move away from that because Simon believes it should be very delicate. It should be those bright red fruits, plush tannins is kind of what we're looking for here. So this is the 2018 Pinot Noir. It has been aged for about 6 months in old French oak as well. So again, I mean, it's really beautiful. You've got those cranberries, those sour cherries on the nose, a little bit of that forest floor coming out. But what you find is there's this really beautiful softness and plushness to it. It's this, it's delicate, it's almost velvety on the mouth, you know. It's got, you do recognize those tannins, but they're so elegantly integrated between that fruit, and that balance is just really lovely. For us, we'd pair that with anything like salmon, with tuna, with lamb. We've also got their duck pancakes as well. You can see it's quite a light color.
Yeah.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 3 wines that we make within the Scorpius range, which are brand new to Prima Vine and to Indonesia. We also sell them in New Zealand and in Australia, and they're extremely popular in Australia. So we're looking forward to seeing how they go, obviously, with you guys in Indonesia when we start to be able to get them out there and sharing them with everyone. Thank you so much for your time today, for us to be able to share this with you. I know, do we have any questions around the brand or the wines that people would like to ask?
All right. I think, Alit is refilling the glass, so meaning is a good sign.
I liked it. So out of the 3 wines that you guys got to taste, which are the 3 favorites for you?
I mean,
Sophie,
for me,
Sophie, I just want to ask you some question.
okay.
Yeah.
Please.
From the Sauvignon, I taste a little bit touch of saline. Does it because of the grape Sauvignon is came from the Kekerengu area, or?
I don't think we blend the Kikeringu into this one, so it might be that might be coming through from I'm not sure where. I could see that.
Do the Sauvignon have blend from Kekerengu or only from Awatiri?
This one is only from the Huayra and from the Awatiri.
Oh,
So you get a really beautiful blend of those sort of, for me, it's a much more of a tropical Sauvignon Blanc than some of the other ones. Some of the other brands that we do tend to be much more herbaceous in the style of wine. But what I really like about this Sauvignon Blanc is it's got those really beautiful, fresh, delicate tropical flavors coming through. I thought the guava and the pink grapefruit were really beautiful in that and quite subtle. But I didn't get, I think maybe that minerality that you're tasting,
yes.
that could be coming through from the Awatiri perhaps there, and also just maybe that handprint of Simon's blending of the wines.
It's very unique.
Yeah. And I think that's that is what makes our brand so unique, is that we only own a small amount of estate fruit. So with that, what that means is we're taking fruit from the different regions, which means that we can blend together wines which are a little bit different and a little bit more complex than some of the other wines that you might see, because we've got this beauty that we can take fruit from different sites.
So basically, you're doing blending through the region.
Yes.
And then different vineyard as well. Right?
Yes. So we have 8 Sauvignon Blanc growers, and we have 10 different blocks of fruit that we end up picking, and we end up with about 30 different parcels of fruit of fully made wines by the time it comes to blending, and then we blend from there based on the style of wine that we're looking to make. So it's an amazing task being able to do that so consistently year on year.
Yeah, I mean, the most difficult to have the consistency, especially that you have certain area different, and try to blend it.
And there's no distinct sort of recipe, so to speak, each year.
What is the number of the production then in total for you in one vintage?
Ooh, well, we have 4 different brands that we
Mhm.
blend across,
Okay.
and so that's really hard for me to work out. But of the Scorpius,
Mm-hmm.
probably in total, it's about 2,000 cases of the Sauvignon Blanc,
Okay.
2,000 of the Pinot Gris, and maybe 1,500, 2,000 of the Pinot Noir.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not a
So
wine that you'll be finding everywhere.
true. And so your exported, I mean, it's for domestic and mostly goes to Australia. Then looking for
Australia
your
and Indonesia will be the market. So we've got the ability to grow a little bit more if needed, but this vintage, because of COVID and because we weren't sure when we were going to be next, we've definitely made small production of these wines.
So for the Pinot Noir, you said that you are aging for 6 months in the old French oak barrel.
Yes.
What about the 2 white? Do you use oak at all for the making, or only pure stainless steel on that one?
Pure stainless steel for those ones. So it's literally, we don't want any of those developed characteristics. So we machine harvest it because we want it off the vines quickly. We transport it straight to the winery where it gets pressed. We take it off the skin straight away because, again, we don't want any of those developed characteristics from the skins either. And then we ferment it in stainless steel tanks, again, just to keep that purity of the fruit flavors coming through.
All right. Very, very interesting. I feel like the Pinot Noir, I feel that the hints of the acidity is more present if you're comparing to other Pinot Noir actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is very interesting. Like the acidity just like kicking out. If you just really like close your eyes and you try to drink it, you really think that is the white wine instead of the red.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
That is for me. I don't know what the other is having the
really,
same.
actually, I'm starting to get that really chocolatey flavor coming through on the nose as well. Actually, it's sort of developing a little bit more, and I'm getting.
I mean, like on the beginning, you have a very strong acidity, and then at the end, and then you can taste all the red fruit character and also the influence of the oak as well on the back. But on the beginning, you can tell that this is really high acidity. That's very interesting. All right.
I think this one is like a dry cherry taste with the spice also at the end.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, you get a really beautiful nutmeg coming through as well.
Do you have like others also? I mean, this is something that is a big topic in everybody. I mean, in the study group, basically talking about how the climate change influencing all the wine region. It was super interesting to hear the story about, let's say, people in Italy or Spain say that yes, we do have a little bit tough condition because of the climate change and etc. Do you experience that as well in your site?
We haven't seen it so much, I suppose, because Marlborough is that continental climate. We do get those, so we've got quite that difference in our diurnal spread. So we do get those long, hot days, which are great for growing grapes for us in Marlborough. And I suppose because our hot summer day there is normally sort of about a warm summer day in Marlborough is about 22 to 26, that even if we get that 30-degree effect, we still get those cool evenings as well that bring that temperature down. So I don't believe that we're noticing it so much. I think where we might start to see it would maybe be in the winter, in the frosts in the spring, perhaps. We start to get more frost coming through that might affect bud burst, but touch wood again, we haven't seen any of that so far. We've been quite lucky, and we definitely are, as I said, Marlborough is very consistent in the weather. We don't get a lot of that wet weather because the rain gets dropped on the ranges, and then we've got those breezes that dry it out, and then it sort of has got that tempered weather itself anyway, that we haven't started to see it so much. And I think it would probably be
I mean, like some other region is experiencing that they have to harvest early because of the condition. That's the things. Like even last week we talked with Barolo as well. In that area, they say that it's getting warmer and warmer. So it could be, it will be, if that continues doing, that might be a little bit difficult for them to
and
maintain.
maybe we
Sure.
harvested. I've only been 2 years back with Astrolab, so I'll have a chat to the viticulturalists, and if there's anything that they're experiencing, I can send that through to you guys
All right.
as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, if you have any question, I mean, especially for those who having testing here, because you're experimenting with the wine directly, feel free to ask. I mean, it's very straightforward and very interesting, of the wine itself. I mean, to pick up this, despite that, the Scorpius itself, is there any reason why you name your wine Scorpius? Despite that, you say that this is the guidance of people in New Zealand, etc., or because the horoscope Scorpius thing, or
Pardon?
the owner is having Scorpion.
No, the owner doesn't love Scorpion. No, I think the owner just liked the idea that there was sort of that guidance, and that it was that bright light, which is also really important into growing grapes. That was why they chose the name. No one's got the star sign or anything like that, unfortunately.
All right. Could you tell us about the sustainable concept in your wine? How is the
sustainable? Okay, yeah, sure. So what that means there is that in the whole growing process that we work with our grape growers in, is that it means that what we take out, like in terms of taking grapes and taking fruit out of the vineyard, we must put it back in as well. So for example, we have we might plant something like a lupin in the vineyard, which therefore is nitrogen fixing, so it puts nitrogen back into the soil, because so there's this whole process that our grape growers and actually the winery have to go through as well, just to check that what we're doing, we're giving back into the vineyard also, and that we're making sure that we're using specific pesticides if we need to, or you know what I mean. So there's definitely that's what we're trying to do there.
But are you having an organic certification, or not really persuade on that?
So within our bigger parent brand, which is Astrolab Wines, of our vineyards, 9% of our vineyards are now organic, and we're looking forward to moving that way in the future. So some of our 2019 wines from Astrolab will be certified organic, but it will be a while before our Scorpius range is certified organic. But we're definitely moving towards that way, and we're definitely moving, even in the office, actually, we are moving to a no plastic model. So we don't use any plastic in our packaging. We don't use sellotape. We use a special sort of cardboard tape as well. We're trying to live a kinder lifestyle to the earth across the board. And we're looking to start to move towards being carbon zero as well.
Sophie, you mentioned about the rosé as well on the Scorpius line. What is the grape?
Oh no, that's another brand. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's another brand. Okay.
Another brand. Yes.
So in Scorpius, it's only 3 grape variety that we are tasting.
Yeah. The De Villiers Rosé you will start to see in Indonesia, but that's someone else. I'm sorry, buddy. And that'll be later in the year.
Okay. All right. So do you think in the future Scorpius will be adding more grape variety, or you will stick with these 3 grape variety only?
Stick with these 3 for now.
Yeah.
The problem with our rosé is it becomes quite expensive because we use Pinot Noir grapes. It means we can't line price the products with that, because it's a much more expensive product to make.
That's true. I think in last year, because we also experiencing here in Hutton Wine, we have different brand which is called the Two Island, and we are bringing the grape from South Australia. Last vintage, 2019, we have difficulties to find the Pinot Noir because of bushfire and etc. There's reducing number, but that not happening in New Zealand overall, right? From the growing of the Pinot Noir, everything is still almost the same.
Yeah, we have no problems with that. We did produce a slightly smaller rosé production this year, but that wasn't because we didn't have the fruit or anything like that. Yeah, so because we take from our growers, we actually take in 50% more fruit than we need to, which enables us to blend our wines, which also means that we still have that access to that fruit.
Yeah. All right. So anybody have another question, please? When we taste the wine, we get all the insight about the region, explanation about the grape itself, about the testing, how the produce and etc. So it was very interesting. I think these three wine is very suitable and very drinking friendly in Bali with the climate, right?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
also mentioned. Imagine yourself by the beach or by the pool to having this freshness wine. It will be just goes very well. And I believe the typical of the wine is also very suitable also when having pairing with Balinese food or Indonesian food, with a lot of richness of the spice and etc. It goes very well with all these three, especially the Pinot Noir. That's will
Yeah,
be very well.
I think that Pinot Noir would actually be really good with what is that spicy? Oh, actually, no, the spicy lamb.
Rendang? No.
Pardon?
Rendang?
No,
The
spicy lamb fried rice in Jakarta.
Oh, nasi goreng kambing.
Yeah.
That one?
Would be nice.
Nasi goreng. Enak tuh. But even like, I can imagine that this Pinot Noir goes very well as well with the babi guling from Bali or ayam betutu. This goes very well. Right?
Yes, that would also be really great with that.
Okay. Maybe that's a good idea to have afternoon snack in Bali.
Yeah. I miss the babi guling.
All right then. So guys, do you still have any question before we close the session? All good? Okay. Sophie, if you don't mind to stop share so we can see everybody's face now before we end the session. Guys, don't forget that we also have the recording session of this webinar. I will send you the link of the recording system and also the presentation if Sophie allow us to share the presentation as well, right? So later on, you can go back to that recording system and the presentation for you to study more, or if you want to know more information. In the presentation as well, that Sophie is kindly send us also giving the information about the email to be contacted if you have any further question. If you don't mind, Sophie, if somebody.
Of course.
Okay. All right. So you can also be able to do that. Don't forget, guys, next week we still have on Thursday, we're moving from New Zealand to Barossa. We will talk about the Peter Lehmann wines next Thursday at 3 p.m. All right. So Sophie, thank you so much for your assisting and the explanation and also the wine. For those who's having a drying testing, I have to say sorry for you, but you can just grab. If you need and interesting the wine, you just contact the distributor in Bali to be able to taste the wine. It was very fresh and very tempting wine. So thank you so much, Sophie. You have the last word to say to the audience, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for jumping on today, and I look forward to coming over and sharing a glass of wine with you in person very soon.
All right. Okay. By the last of this session, like usual, please switch on your video so we can have the photo shooting online. All right. So we can see all your face. So, Septi, mukanya mana? Sudah? Maria, Surya, Pak Eko, Pak Henry, udah profile. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Guys, you are on the background, so you all need to see here. Korea, you see here. Pick up your glass. 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is nice. Alit kurang dekat. 1, 2, 3. Go.
Can I take one as well? Hold up.
All right. Class. Salah focus. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Go. All right. So once again, thank you so much for everybody joining us. Thank you so much untuk Prima
Yeah.
Wine and also San for giving us the wine and also allow us to have the testing. See you next Thursday at 3 o'clock. We're going to Barossa. So meanwhile, Sophie, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Our spirit giving you 27 degrees from Bali to send you to Auckland
I'm
to make
gonna
you
go
warm.
to the sauna tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Iksan, Pak Edi.
Thank you, Bu Dewi, Bu
Thank you so
Widya.
much, guys.
Bye, Surya.
Thank you.
Bye,
Good night,
Halo.
Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Puri. Thank you.
Bye.